decades, major northern cities like Detroit and Chicago were seen as promised lands for Black Americans. They offered an escape from the discrimination and limited opportunities of the South. But a recent trend is raising eyebrows. Black families are leaving these northern hubs in significant numbers. In today's video, we will talk about 5 northern states Black Americans are leaving. Before we move ahead, please make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Detroit. The population of Detroit has been steadily declining for several decades. A sizable fraction of the African American population of the city is leaving. Over 12,000 Black inhabitants of Detroit left the city alone between 2015 and 2020. Interestingly, Detroit used to be the largest majority Black city in the country, but Memphis, Tennessee, has taken on that title as a result of this continuous demographic migration. There are a variety of reasons why Black Americans are leaving Detroit. The most often mentioned elements include high crime rates, affordable housing, and Black citizens' perceived lack of access to well-paying job opportunities. Although Detroit's housing costs are lower than the national average, many families find home ownership to be unattainable due to the city's persistently low median household income. Furthermore, FBI data indicates that Detroit ranks second nationwide in terms of violent crimes, which are disproportionately high when compared to other big cities. Lastly, there are issues with racial differences in the availability of well-paying employment. According to one particular study, white workers in Detroit make up a disproportionate share of those employed in growth occupations, which are defined by things like competitive pay and rates of regional expansion. Compared to 26% of white Detroit inhabitants, only 16% of Black Detroiters occupy such positions. Cleveland. Cleveland used to be a Midwest shining light, attracting people from all walks of life with its exciting culture and expanding prospects. But as time has gone on, a noticeable pattern has surfaced. Black citizens are leaving the city and the larger Midwest region. In Cleveland, 15,390 Black people left between 2015 and 2020, indicating a dramatic change in the city's demographics. There are several reasons for this migration, and they are all connected to the dissatisfaction and disappointment that Black communities feel. The urge for a fresh start elsewhere has been encouraged by differences in communities, housing, economic opportunities, health, education, and community safety. It's a story molded by ingrained racial injustices that have crept into every aspect of society. Cleveland, which was formerly praised for its rich cultural diversity, is currently struggling with the ugly reality of segregation. Redlining's last effects have kept neighborhoods divided and obstructed prospects for upward mobility and fair access to homes. Therefore, the prospect of a better living is frequently found outside of city limits, where communities are free from the restrictions imposed by discriminatory behaviors. Cleveland's violent crime rate is more than 4 times higher than the national median, raising the specter of community violence in the city. People are forced to seek refuge in safer surroundings, where the promise of security is not overwhelmed by the fear of violence, because of the prevalent sense of uncertainty that threatens societal cohesion. Boston. Boston also used to be a bright spot for opportunity and variety, bringing people from all over the world to visit its famous streets, but recent years have seen a noticeable change in the city's demographics, with about 11,375 Black Americans leaving between 2015 and 2020. Although this number might not seem significant at first, it becomes significant when compared to the general population growth of Boston over the same period, which is expected to increase from roughly 67,900 to 67,472 by 2020. Many Black citizens of Boston have left the city due to the attraction of southern states, especially in cities like Atlanta, which has resulted in a migration pattern. Determining the causes of this large-scale migration reveals a complex web of past injustices and present-day difficulties. The ghost of racial discrimination still haunts Boston's present, sending echoes of the past through the halls of time. People still remember the fight against desegregation in schools in 1974, which casts a shadow over attempts to promote fairness and inclusion. Discriminatory rules at downtown venues are painful memories of how bad things are between the city and its Black residents after all these years. Even though there has been growth, there is still an air of hostility that makes many Black Americans feel uncomfortable. The sky-high cost of living has also become a big problem for people who want to stay in Boston. With the typical home price rising to $900,000, the city's housing market is getting harder for people who don't come from a wealthy family. For many people, the dream of owning a home in Boston is still just out of reach, which makes them look for cheaper options elsewhere. Chicago. In recent years, nearly 14,890 black people left Chicago from 2015 to 2020. This happened for a few reasons. There's been more violence, fewer jobs in factories, some homes for people with lower incomes were destroyed, and it costs a lot more to live here now. Also, some public schools closed down. This isn't new. Back in 1980, about 40% of people living in Chicago were black, but now only around 29% are. One big reason for people leaving is violence. For example, in the Austin neighborhood, where there were a lot of killings, many black people moved away. Another reason is that some public housing buildings were torn down. The city wanted to fix some problems with these buildings, but they didn't have enough new homes ready for everyone who had to move out, so lots of people were left without a place to live, which makes things worse. Overall, these problems have made it tough for many black families to stay in Chicago. They're facing challenges like violence, fewer job opportunities, and not enough affordable places to live. It's a tough situation that's affecting many communities in the city. New York. New York City used to be a beacon of hope for many African Americans. It offered a chance for a fresh start, a place to build a better life. Harlem in particular thrived as a vibrant center of black culture and community. However, things have changed in recent years. Many black families, especially young and educated ones, are choosing to leave the Big Apple in search of a more affordable and accessible future. This exodus is concerning. Statistics show that over 31,000 black Americans have left New York City recently. These aren't just any residents. The trend shows a worrying decline in black children and teenagers, with their numbers dropping by 19% between 2010 and 2020. This is the highest rate of any demographic group in this city. It's almost like a reverse Great Migration, with many black families heading south, where the cost of living is much lower. Why are so many black families leaving New York? The answer is simple: affordability. New York City is one of the most expensive places to live in the entire country. Housing costs are sky high, making it difficult for many families to find a decent place to live. On top of that, there's a huge gap between the wealth of white and black households. The average black family makes only about $53,000 a year, while the average white family makes almost double that, at $98,000. This financial strain makes it hard for black families to build a secure future in the city. They struggle to afford rent, groceries, and other necessities, let alone things like education or saving for retirement. The cost of living makes it feel like the city just isn't designed for them to succeed. There have been efforts to address this issue. New York's second black mayor, Eric Adams, has made it a priority to create a more affordable city for everyone. However, it's too early to say if these plans will be successful. It's a complex problem that requires a lot of work. The departure of black families weakens the cultural fabric of New York City. Their contributions to the city's history, arts, and business scene are invaluable. Hopefully, solutions can be found to make New York a place where everyone, regardless of race or background, has the opportunity to thrive. What are your thoughts on the challenges facing black communities in cities like Chicago and New York? Who do you think bears responsibility for addressing these issues? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more insightful content.